Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 31 of SATO Briefing Series. Today, we're going to be talking about a special project that we are working on now currently. Um, as you can see here, this is a Bell 412, and it's not just any Bell 412. It's not. It's the Sarasim version. So I've managed to get in contact with Sarasim. And I've been able to get permission to modify their Bell 412 and their Bell 212 helicopter. This marks the first time I've worked with a paywork company since I was able to modify the Milviz sky cranes. So this project is going to be equally as complex in terms of the things I'm trying to add to these. With the Sky Crane project, I did a whole bunch of tank modifications, external modifications to represent several, if not most, of the Sky Cranes that were available out there. And with the Sarasim helicopters, the 212 and 412s are widely used for firefighting across the world. But the configuration that the 212 and 412 come in is extremely basic, and there isn't a whole lot of expansion for those models to get the specific equipment versions of them that are available out there to fly. There have been some other people that I think have gotten permission to do other smaller mods to these helicopters over time. I think the 412 mainly has had some modifications done to it to do some military versions, but nobody has really done anything with the civilian aspect of this in terms of rescue and firefighting, which is my primary focus on what I'm going to be doing with these. So, and you'll notice off the bat that a lot of these paints that you're going to see and equipment packs are for U.S. operators. That's kind of my main focus right now, and a lot of them are since the 412 and the 212 are used a lot in the Western United States. You'll see a lot of those agencies and companies using them, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be doing other countries' aircraft too. There are some equipment packs that will double over into, say, like Australia, Canada, some places in South America and Europe that have similar equipment packages as some of the helicopters over here in the U.S. So there's going to be some variation, at least in that aspect, for foreign operators. And like I said, there's going to be a ton of U.S. domestic operators and agencies that use both these helicopters. So that doesn't mean that later, since I have permission, that I might do others specific to other agencies and other countries um, later on. Right here, you can see this is one of them. This is Los Angeles County Fire. This is one of several helicopters. LA County operates 5, I believe, Bell 412s. And this is their tank version. I don't know what type of tank this is offhand. Um, but basically, some of the modifications I'm doing is I'm adding some of the equipment packages. So, like things like mirrors for the nose, searchlights, other additional equipment packs like speakers and hose attachments and rescue hoists and things like that. That's primarily what I'm doing with these is making those equipment packs, and I'm also doing some minor fuselage modifications for that. Some of you may recognize looking back here at the tail that I have the BLR Aerospace Fast Fin modification done to these. So, and that's one of the other additional modifications that I'm going to be doing to these is that since a lot of them in the modern configurations have this tail modification, there's not many in P3D that I'm aware of, or even FSX that had this modification done to them. They're all the original standard tails. So I'm going to be doing this change to a number of them. There will be some configured, obviously, with the original tails and stuff like that. So it's not going to be just new aircraft. It'll be, a mix of them. So there's also going to be, this is a low skid version. I also have a high skid conversion for both the 412 and the 212. Maybe I'll insert some images of some of the prototypes for those in here so you can see them. Those right now I'm working on. Let's see, for the U.S. operators right now, the agencies that I have planned are LA County Fire, LA City, San Bernardino County Sheriff, Ventura County Sheriff. Um, let's see, we've got, I think, San Diego Fire, and San Diego County Sheriff. And I'm looking at possibly doing a couple of others for maybe Orange County, and maybe some other ones. And that also goes for the 212. The 212 kind of doubles in some of those agencies. They also operate the 212 and the 412. So you'll have some of those. I have, I think, an operator from Chile on there as well for some South American operations. And I have a couple of configurations for Wildcat and Kestrel for both Canadian and Australian ops. So that's kind of what I have planned right now for them. In terms of equipment packs and stuff like that, there'll be some different tank options. So there's this one for LA County, then there'll be the Simplex model tanks. That'll be on like things like San Diego County or San Diego City Fire, and several other operators use the 375-gallon tank on them. So that'll be options that I'll be using for those. And as far as other equipment goes, it'll vary obviously between each aircraft. They'll have small modifications and things like that. I'm also going to be doing some lighting modifications. I've worked on some new pulse lights. And everyone talks about pulse lighting. They're the alternating lights that's kind of notably seen in a lot of firefighting aircraft. It's for better visualization and low light conditions and smoke and stuff like that. So I've taken some of my other modifications for those lights that I did originally, and I've tweaked them to better. They're not as. I've had some complaints that they were a little annoying because they were so bright in the cockpit that they're basically blinding. So I've toned those way down, and I've messed with some intervals and stuff like that to change the effect, so it's not so annoying. Um, you know, flying around in low light conditions and stuff like that, it no longer um, is a factor in the cockpit anymore. So at least there's that. That's also coming for these. This will be the first aircraft with those new pulse lights on. There's two different types that I'll have. One's a slower alternating, kind of typical pattern, I guess you could call it, and then another one is a faster pattern that a lot of the 412s have. Um, but in terms of other things that I'm trying to do with this, I'm trying to make it so that I can have the hoses stow and unstow, but it's given me a lot of issues with how that's set up in here, and I think it's just how the aircraft is coded. I haven't quite found a way yet to get it so that I'll be able to do that. If not, there'll just be a stowed and unstowed model options. So if you want to do rescue ops, you can fly the one with the stowed snorkel. And then if you want to fly fire ops, you can obviously have the one with the snorkel deployed. It's not ideal. I don't really want to do that, but being with the limitations and my abilities with getting this to work and the permissions I have with Serasim to protect their overall product, I can't do a whole lot of specialized modifications for gauges and things like that because it's going to be. I feel like it's going to dip too far into that protection, their product protection um, aspect of me getting permission to do the modifications. So basically, how this modification pack will work is you have to have either the 212 or the 412 or both of them. And you'll basically take this modification pack and you'll basically take the parts from the original helicopter and drag them into this folder to basically create the rest of the aircraft, the missing files essentially. So you'll obviously have to have purchased both the 212 or the 412 in order for these expansion models to work. It's kind of the same thing with how the Firehawk mod works. The Serasim Firehawk mod worked for the Serasim UH-60, and how I had the S-64 mod set up for the Sky Cranes. You needed the original product in order for those to work. This will be the exact same way. There'll be some other files that you'll just have to drag and drop in, and some effect files and some changes you'll have to add to the the aircraft CFG files, and that's basically it. And you'll get these equipped versions of the 412 or the 212. Or I said, if you want to get both, you get both. So, trying to think of anything else. I'm trying to look at other options. I'm trying to look at maybe doing some other cosmetic changes to these, but not quite sure as of yet how I'm going to be able to do that, or if I'm going to even mess with them. I did some of that stuff on the sky cranes to help their cosmetics. This I am doing kind of something similar. I am adding PBR to these. These previously did not have PBR, and these will have it. Um, Kind of just another little upgrade to their helicopters. And people may remember that I updated the hover control 412 and the 212 by Georgia Rana, and those were great models, but they're dated now significantly. These are a little bit newer, but they're also a lot cleaner. They're a lot higher detail, I feel. It was a lot better base product, I felt, to do a lot of these modifications to. The hover control and the other 212, I could have done the same modification to them. It would have just probably taken a lot longer time to get them to where I wanted them. The Sarah birds were pretty much ready to go as they were, because they were just a base helicopter, and I just had to basically model the parts and do some small changes and cosmetic changes, and add bits and pieces here or there, and you basically will have these firefighting versions. The way that I've made this work is that the texture mapping for these helicopters will be exactly as they were stock. So everything that you see on the helicopter without the except for the accessories that I'm adding, those external accessories like the hoist to the tanks and stuff like that will have their own separate texture file, and that'll be, you can paint that like you can normally. And then the helicopter itself will stay exactly the same as the standard. So if you have the paint kits that came with the products, you can paint your own helicopter and put those paints right on here. The only thing that you would have to be mindful of is where you place certain designs on this tail if you have the fast fin model, because that will change. Obviously, you don't have as much surface area on the tail with the fast fin mod. So that's just something small that you'll have to take note of whenever you have these. That also means that if you have other paints that maybe you've done or you've downloaded from somewhere else, you can take those paints and put them onto these models. With also adding those the files for the equipment that I include to those paints that you already have, and these paints will work on these models too. So if there's a operator that's already has a paint out there that matches one of the configurations of the helicopter, you can put that paint right on here and it'll work. So, and that's how this one here is. I'm working with a community developer, Delta. He's done a lot of repaints and packages for firefighting aircraft. He's done a ton of them for like the UH-60 and a bunch of other aircraft. But he's teamed up with me to do a lot of the agency repaints for both the 212 and the 412. So this is one of his. You'll see San Diego Fire and a few others. I'll put in here screenshots of them. Those are all his paints, and those will come with one aircraft per model in here. He will be putting out a separate pack that has the entire fleet of those particular operators. So, like LA County, as I said before, has 5. He'll have all 5 of the 412s in that pack. Same thing with like San Diego, they have 2 412s now. Stuff like that. So, except for some of the specialized ones, he's not doing all of them, just certain specific agencies right now. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure how many of these agencies I'll do, but right now, like I said, the main focus on this first iteration pack that's going to get released is mainly U.S. operators with some, like I said, European and Australian and other operators. So there, like I said, there's going to be more to come in terms of probably other equipment packs for, like I said, other countries and stuff like that. But I'm not doing anything other than rescue and fire. So if it's got a rescue or a fire configuration, chances are I'll eventually get to it or get one that's close to one that you're possibly looking at. One of the other rescue options I'm looking at is like one with the basket that's outside of the fuselage and stuff like that. Just little modifications and stuff like that for those agencies that use these aircraft. So that's kind of going to be a long-term project since I'm doing two helicopters at once. The only good thing is that a lot of those modifications transfer directly over to each other with very little modification. I do have to still do some, so it's not like a direct swap over to each helicopter. There's obviously some changes and stuff I have to do, but largely the models I have. I've done the preliminary research on them. I'm just gathering information on packages and things like that that they have on them to see if I need to make any minor changes or if I can recycle parts or I have to model other ones. And just it's just a tedious setup process for getting most of this stuff out there. So um, I'm not sure which aircraft will be done first. Um, it just depends. And right now, the equipment packages are similarly split between the two, so there's about an even number of them between the two. The only issue is I still don't know how many libraries I'll do for each one. So at least initially. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And as I get further into the project, I'll see kind of what else I can get done to these in terms of features. Um, there's already a lot of features with the Sarasim aircraft, as you can see, like sliding doors, opening doors, ground APU units, fairing chocks, and all kinds of accoutrements on the outside of it. So I can't really add a whole lot more to them in terms of that. Like I said, the one main thing I'm trying to get to work is having the snorkels deployable. And in terms of like buckets, I was debating on doing buckets for these as well, but since a lot of these operators use either long line, short line, and kind of a mid-range bucket setup, depending on who they are, it's better, I think, to just do a slick model and using the Firefighter X buckets that have been supplied as a better option, just because of how complex I've already tried to run with trying to do the snorkel options on this, and it's been a headache. So I'm just doing the tanks for right now, and once I figure out a possible solution for the snorkels will get attached to these. So uh, in terms of like this aircraft, you see has a searchlight on it. The searchlight, I think I'm gonna leave fixed because I've tried to mess with searchlight stuff before in the past, and I I have not been able to get it to work properly, at least the way that I want to use it. And I think that would make it easier to use. It's just a static. It's just basically for looks right now. Maybe sometime later on I can do an equipment modification that makes it work. But at this particular point, I'm not messing with the searchlights in terms of that for that. For the aircraft that do have the hoist, though, I will be adding the rescue hoist from the built-in options from P3D into it, which is something I did with the 212 and 412s. I did with the freeware release ones a ways back. I added a hoist setup for them. I'll do the same thing for these so people can actually do hoist operations with them. With, like I said, the built-in P3D options. So some of them do have a FLIR option too, and I'll be looking at trying to add that as a functional option. Again, that's something I did on the freeware aircraft whenever I released those. So I'll try to do the same setup for these if it's possible. So there's a lot of stuff coming for these helicopters, and it was a long time coming, and I think it's going to be a popular option because the Sarah aircraft, I think, are some of the best helicopters, the modeled helicopters in P3D and FSX. So, I mean, the fact that we have the UH-60, then they had the Firehawk mod, which was absolutely amazing, and I was able to modify that further. And then now we've got the 212 and the 412s. That's kind of like adding to that overall high quality firefighting aircraft for anyone that's in the rotary wing realm. You'll have the Firehawk, the 412 and the 212. So um, that's what we're looking at least in the immediate future. I don't really have any other side projects. I am working on something. I'm working on a uh, Beechcraft for um, Buffalo Airways Virtual, but that's not going to be a public release. Um, I have some other helicopter options I'm looking at possibly doing in the future, but nothing is set in stone right now, and a lot of the modifications have slowed way down, and that's due to time availability, what I'm looking at wanting to modify, and certain other options. So, and that's kind of what I'm sticking to right now because Microsoft Flight Simulator still you don't have a lot of options for that even still. And here it is, we're creeping up on. It's been out for almost a year now, and we still don't really have anything new in terms of firefighting or anything expanded features or anything in that sim either. So that's pretty disappointing, in my opinion, for that in terms of that. But like I said, for right now, we've got stuff to do in P3D, and that's what we're going to stick to doing. So thanks for tuning in, and tune into the next one.